So now coming back into like round 2, not being afraid to fail is my superhero power. It is a dangerous thing to stand on a line next to someone who's not afraid to fail, because I will go for it every single time, and I either hit my goal or I learn something new. And I know when it doesn't go my way, I know how to fail. Like, I know how to get over it. I know how to learn from it. I know how to become better from it. I see it more as a step than like a dead end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's a dangerous person to stand on a line against.
This is Early Miles, and I'm Steve Gonzer. On this show, we talk to runners, coaches, clinicians, and thinkers about the moments that shaped how they train, how they think, and how they ended up where they are. Early Miles is ad-free and supported by runners who are members of the RunSmart app. RunSmart is a training platform built by physical therapists. If you have an upcoming race or are looking to train and run smart, you can download the RunSmart app from the App Store or Google Play. And now, today's episode. Most elite runners build their entire life around the sport. Keira D'Amato walked away from it. After years of injury, she stopped running, built a career, and started a family, and assumed that chapter was over. And then, years later, she came back, not to prove anything, but because she missed who she was when she ran. During COVID, she got creative, even organizing her own race, the Up Dog 10 Mile. What's up, dog? She built patiently, found confidence again, and kept showing up even when she was, in her own words, super afraid to fail. What happens when you give yourself a second chance, long after everyone thinks your window is closed? Keira signed with Nike, balanced training with parenting, and after years of steady work, broke the American marathon record. Today we talk about injuries, mental health, resilience, women supporting women in sports, and what it takes to chase the Olympic trials while raising a family. My guest today is Keira D'Amato.
I grew up in Northern Virginia, in actually Oakton, Virginia. Go Cougars. And I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and we all loved playing sport. So any sport that came along, whatever the season was, we were all involved in as many sports as our mom could possibly drive us around to, all of them. But so soccer was my favorite. I loved playing soccer. I loved running around. I loved being part of a team and competing. And that is all I saw for my life. I just wanted to be a professional soccer player. But I also did basketball and swimming and tennis and a short stint with t-ball until I got hit with a wild swing once. And then I was like, I'm out. This is not contact sports, not for me in this way. But yeah, I just grew up playing. Probably the
farthest you can get from a contact sport, but...
Well, when the ball contacts you, that is not the type of contact you want to be in.
I think that's like a precursor for what's coming, which is running, because whenever I work with a lot of runners, so like, and I have them do something coordinated, like this is why I run, because as soon as like that coordination, but you played soccer, so I guess you're still coordinated, but yeah.
Yeah, I was an athlete, and I love to play. I love to compete. And the whole reason I got into running was to impress the soccer coach at Oakton High School. So I thought if he saw me do cross country, which was in the fall, and soccer is in the spring in Virginia, that he'd be like, oh, this girl's really fit. She belongs on varsity. So that was like my whole game plan.
Yeah. So you made that transition eventually from soccer to just running, right? Because then you started doing outdoor, you were just doing cross country. Like, what point did you make that jump? Like, hey, I'm doing really well here, because you made that full transition. So how did that end up happening?
Yeah, my freshman year after indoor track, then I had to decide between outdoor track or soccer. And it was at this point where I kind of just realized, like, running is it for me. Like, not only do I love the training part, I love the racing part. I love what it does to me mentally and physically. And like, I really feel like I found my people too, which was really important. Like, I found this community of just like-minded people that I immediately fell in love with. And so I think that, it was it was the toughest decision of my life at the time as a 14-year-old. But I think deep down, like, I remember being in soccer games, being like, let's like drop the ball and race around the field. Like, I bet I'd crush everyone. Or like, I'd be having the game of my life and we'd be losing. And I'd be like, I just scored 3 goals. Probably not 3. I'm exaggerating, but I just scored a goal. I'm having the game of my life. How are we not winning? So I liked that running was so honest, that the more you put in, the more you get out. And it's just this competition with yourself. And so I think I was ultimately really drawn to all of that.
Out of you and your siblings, were you the only one that transitioned into running, or did anyone else involved in that?
I think I ruined it for the rest of them because, and it's funny because we all ended up specializing in a different sport. So
Hmm.
we all played all the sports growing up, but I ended up being a runner. I had a brother who was a lacrosse player, another brother who was a diver, a sister that was into basketball, and a sister that was into soccer, and then also theater. So we all really took different paths, but I think I probably ruined it for them.
Especially like you go out for like a family run and then you're just gone and you're just like dusting everybody. And it,
Yeah, but they were all convinced they could beat me. So I got a lot of like taunting growing up
sure.
that like, oh, you got nothing. We're faster than you. We all have the same genes, so we could beat you. And I'm like, well, then try
Yeah.
it.
It's interesting because like you look at, there's so much like sports specialization today where kids are just playing like one sport. Like here it's hockey, baseball, like you're just doing that year round. But being able to dabble, especially I'm sure like you were running, but I'm guessing you and your siblings would pick up a basketball and go do that. You'd still like dribble the ball around and things. And like having those multiple sports certainly works on just like some overall coordination and not specializing seems to be the way to go because realistically most people aren't going pro, and having multiple aspects not only exposes you to more things but I think it also it helps you in development, especially in those critical years. Like your early teen years is when like you're doing a lot of development. So if you're just doing one thing, it certainly can bias how you develop later on.
Yeah, and I became really resilient.
Hmm.
Like I mean, running is a bunch of really monotonous, just go straight. But with soccer and basketball, you're moving different directions and you're so dynamic. And I think that made me really strong. I think that like developed muscles that I probably wouldn't have developed in running. And so I'm very, very appreciative. And then just the overall perspective. You learn new things, you experience different things. And I'm very appreciative for all my different sports.
Yeah, you you went to you went to Blue Ridge running camp, right? At some point.
Yes.
Yeah. And then
Yes.
is that where you first met your husband? Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Well,
Yeah,
go ahead.
he was wrestling in a fountain, and I walked by and
Ooh.
I thought that guy looks like a lot of fun.
So at that point, where did he grow up? Was he in Virginia as well? Or did you guys just meet at that group and then kind of kept in touch over the years?
Yeah, he was in Richmond, which
Mm.
was about 2 hours south. So we would race against each other, or teams would at states. But other than that, we didn't really overlap too much. But we became friends. I went with him to his prom, and then he went off to the Air Force Academy. So we just stayed in touch for a number of years.
Imagine back then it was like AIM or AOL or something that you would keep in touch with people.
Yes, it was. Yep,
Dare I ask
exactly.
what your username was for AOL?
This is super creative, but it was Kira 444.
Oh,
And that was because Kira was taken, and then Kira 4 was taken, and Kira 44 was taken. So Kira 444, which ended up being my Mile Time for a little bit. So then I was like,
wow.
oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So maybe there was something to that.
Oh, nice. So I have a list of accomplishments here: 5 state titles in high school, 5-time Virginia state champion, and then you end up going to American University. And talk to me a little bit about that, because I think also you had great exposure to coaching or athletes there, because I think who was the coach? It was Matt Centrowitz who was a coach
Yes.
there. So talk to me about
Hmm.
that experience. And you come from really successful in high school, and then there's always this like, hey, all the kids when you go to college are also very good in high school. So how did you feel like that went for you in that transition?
I think I transitioned pretty well. Like, I think in life in general, I do okay with change. I'm a
Hmm.
very coachable person, and I have a lot of belief in like what I'm doing it and who I'm doing with. So I think that that transition was okay. I love Matt Senchwitz as a coach. He was incredible. He is he's like an old school coach. He's a tough love kind of coach,
Hmm.
but he's also like, he just makes it so easy and so simple. Like there's no extra drama around running. You just go out and run and you see what you're made of. And I think that that kind of, he went to like Oregon. So I think that that like almost Prefontaine-ish mentality suited me really, really well. So I had a great experience with him. And I mean, my freshman year, I, actually, I guess my sophomore year, I qualified for nationals in cross country and finished 16th in the nation. And I was coming from high school. I was the first person to not qualify for nationals in cross country. So I felt like in these 2 years, I went from not being able to qualify for nationals to now being a contender.
Hmm.
And that was really cool to see that progress. But I also like, I think he He was super patient with me. So my freshman year, I took 2 days off per week, one totally off and one just to cross train. And I really appreciate that he developed me as Kira, not as someone that we need numbers for the team.
Sure.
So I have so much gratitude that he was so individualized with me and my progress.
Do you still talk to him at all?
I do.
Yeah.
And I love it. When my phone rings and I know it's him, I'm like, this is going to be a great conversation. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm in touch with just kind of like what's going on in PT world. I think his is his sister a PT, I think in Park City. Do you know?
Yeah, his wife, Matt Senchowitz Jr.,
Hmm.
the one who won the gold medal in Rio, his wife is a PT,
That's what it is.
an incredible PT. Yeah, I've seen her. She's awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. So you had 2 degrees, mathematics, computer science. And I know as you came through college, you had a bunch of, so I'm going to read them off again because there's so many like accomplishments wrapped into this: 14 Patriot League titles, 4-time All-American, but you also were a multi-year academic All-American. So you were balancing training, you were balancing school, mathematics, computer science. I got to imagine that balance of all those things, like doing a sport in college, dual major, had to help you with just kind of organizing your life, which I'm assuming played well later in life.
Yeah, it did. I had to learn how to prioritize, how to not procrastinate, how to you just get it done.
Hmm.
And I think that became a very big strength of mine just in life in general. But then I also had to learn to like communicate because for racing, there was times that I'd miss class or I'd have to reschedule tests or so I had to make sure that I was communicating really well with my professors. And I found the more that I could let them know what was going on with me, the more willing they were to help and make it work for everyone. So I really appreciate them being flexible because I did travel a lot for racing.
Yeah. You come out of college and kind of moving to the next stage, which is like post collegiate. So you have this incredible college career, and then injuries start to creep in. But before those start to creep in, was the vision like, I'm going to take this to the next step? I'm going to try to get to the Olympics. I'm going to try to, go pro with this. Like, what was that post collegiate transition like for you?
Yeah, I knew my running story wasn't done after college, and I wanted to see how far I could take it. I wanted to see how fast I could run, and I thought that perhaps I could be someone that was competing on the pro level, like on a national stage. At nationals, maybe I would have a shot at, qualifying for the Olympic trials and competing for a spot on the team. So I had all these big dreams that I so believed down to my core could happen if I just gave it time to see where it went.
Yeah, so consistency over time. And then you started having, I read that you had 2 stress fractures, you had to have an operation on your foot, kind of threw a huge wrench into things and led to a hiatus. But like when you're going through that, the stress fracture side, the having to do with surgery side, at this point, you've been running for a long time. And if you're like every other runner I know, it's significantly tied to mental health as well as physical health. So what do you remember about that time of having to shut it down? Were you just trying to stay active as possible? Were you sulking in a corner? Like, how did you get through that phase of running in life?
Yeah, it was really tough for me. I think that my perspective now is so much healthier as someone now. I'm 41.
Hmm.
So I've lived a lot of life. I've experienced a lot of things. I've learned patience. I've learned how to like sit through the grind and just be comfortable with being in the journey and not quite there yet. But I didn't know that in my 20s.
Sure.
And I
Yeah. It's
wanted
hindsight.
everything now. I was super afraid to fail. Like I couldn't like just the thought of even having to take a couple weeks off felt huge and just I had a hard time. Yes, I had a hard time balancing that. And then I also just started feeling exhausted because I would take 6 weeks off with a stress fracture. I would cross train as much as I could and try to maintain any resemblance of fitness. And then I would get back, build back up, and it would happen again. So it felt like I was working so hard, but almost just like I was running in a dream. Like I was working so hard, but I wasn't getting anywhere.
Hmm.
And then finally, when I was fit enough to race, I'd find a race and wouldn't be that great because my training hadn't been very consistent. So it was a very tough, exhausting time. And then when I was diagnosed needing the surgery, my insurance didn't cover it. So I felt like that kind of made the decision for me. But at the time, I was so exhausted. It was almost like a relief
Sure.
that like someone was telling me I was done, right? Because I would
Yeah.
have never been able to make that decision by myself. So
Were they not covering it because they looked at you as like, she doesn't need this surgery. It's just running? Because I've run into that with insurances. Or was it just like a network thing and they wouldn't cover it? Or what was the reason for that?
So this was in 2008 when it was all of the pre-existing conditions things was
Hmm.
going on. So I had twisted my ankle back my junior year in high school. That same ankle that ended up totally different things. So that twist was just a sprain that I had to take a couple weeks off, but this was something I had tarsal coalition. So totally different things. So when they said it wasn't covered because there was reference of me going to the doctor back 8 years ago or 6 years ago, whenever it was. So I appealed it and they said no, and they appealed it and they said no. And like, yeah, I said in my book, I felt like I was getting rejected more than people on The Bachelor do. Like I just
Yeah.
like kept hearing no, like, and then it was like ultimately done. And so I couldn't get the surgery unless I just paid out of pocket. And that felt very overwhelming too. So I decided to fall back onto my math and computer science degree and see what else Kira could do.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like at every level, I see this. I am from like the everyday runner who's going out to do their first marathon, or people who've been running for years, or even at the elite level. You get stuck, and it sounds like you were kind of there. You get stuck in this, you miss time, you're trying to make up for a little bit of time. And in that process of trying to make up for things, you aggravate something else because like I've already been out for X amount of weeks. I gotta kind of catch back up. But in that process of building too quickly or trying to catch back up, you get hurt again. You get stuck in this cycle of catch up, something goes wrong, catch up, something goes wrong. And it sounds like, hindsight's always 2020. And one thing I try to relate to my patients, because I see so many people going through this, and I think it resonates because it's not just, oh, I'm this high level runner, but when running's part of who you are and you can't
Hmm.
do it, it certainly affects, mental health, how you feel about yourself in general. And try to lean on, there's this podcast, maybe it wasn't a podcast, but I think it was Tom Hanks. He just kept saying this too shall pass. And I think it's
Hmm.
really something I try to use with patients. And because when you're in it and you're living it, it's like, it's very hard. And I've been hurt. I go through it. And, I remember coming back, you probably had the similar experience. You'd like, hey, you kind of go out and you're like, this is the run that it doesn't hurt. And then you go out and it hurts and you come back, you're like, son of a bitch, I am never going to run again. And you kind of
Right.
get stuck in that rut.
I found too, like similar to this too shall pass, like now, like in my 30s, it
Hmm.
became this will soon be a speed bump in my rearview mirror.
Yeah.
And I've learned to reframe injuries that like this is a gift in a way that I'm learning a weakness.
Hmm.
There's something about my body, my stride, my strength, whatever that needs to be improved. And so it's an opportunity to find what that is and become better. And I think now that, I'm 20 years older, I have that perspective and that really helps. So when something pops up, I'm like, okay, let's not just put a band-aid over this. Why is this happening? And let's use this as a chance to level up, which has really helped. But it's still like injuries are the worst, man.
Yeah.
Like, like I don't want to go on a side quest right now. Like I want to keep like searching for my holy grail or whatever I'm
Hmm.
doing. So yeah, let's just keep moving forward. But it is like I think as athletes, when you're training, I mean, there's so many different ways to run. And when you're training to see like how fast you can go, you're training on this razor's edge, right? That you
Hmm.
want to push a little further, a little faster, a little farther than you've done before. And that sometimes can lead to really incredible things. But sometimes then you push a little too hard and you find that red line and you like get your hand stuck in the cookie jar. So it's tough, but it is unfortunately part of the process when we're doing
Sure.
something with our bodies like this.
Yeah. Just kind of looking back at the runners I work with, I tend, like when you're on that razor's edge, you're it's no way to live unless you are running very competitively, in my opinion, and people will probably be
Mhm.
against that. But, I talk to people all the time. If you can just stay consistent, you will get faster.
Yes.
The worst thing you
Yes.
can do is overshoot, get hurt, lose all of that fitness. And it's not even
Yep.
just the fitness, it's your body's ability to absorb running. So go a little less. You're not putting food on the table. Like with this, you really are
Mhm.
after it for the mental health benefits and the physical benefits. Just stay consistent, and you over time will just hit these goals. You can't over over rev the engine and end up just in that cycle I already talked about, which I feel like a lot of people end up doing.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, what's the secret to running? And I wish there was some like sexy secret, but it is exactly what you just said. It's consistency and patience over
Mm-hmm.
time. Like that is the secret. I think the best runners and the people that find the most out of themselves and find their very own best are the people that can do exactly what you said. Be patient, be consistent, and put in work over time. So, and then I tell people fun too,
Yeah,
because you got to have some fun while you're doing it.
I think too, like that's one thing I was going to mention. Like you have to find some joy in it. So for example, like it can be tiring year after year just chasing goals. Like go sign up for something in the woods. Go, on a rim to rim and run through the Grand Canyon, or do something that just
Right.
kind of, you're not staring at your watch the entire time. I feel like, I don't know your experience with it, but is there, up until this point, we haven't kind of gotten to the point where you had to shut it down. We're right at that point, but did you feel any burnout up until this point? Because I feel like that can happen as well when people are constantly chasing a time on the clock, that they get burned out and it's just not fun anymore.
That is exactly where I was when I left the sport. I was burned out. I was tired. It wasn't fun in the same
Sure.
way. I felt a lot of pressure. I felt like I wasn't moving forward quick enough. There was a lot of negative emotion tied to running at the time. So, and that's like, I've taken such a weird path in this sport, but I think this was a path I needed to take to learn the lessons that I needed to learn.
Yeah. So that insurance piece where they just denied you, I think you mentioned it earlier, was just like almost like a let off, like a pressure valve of like, okay, like I'm just going to step away for a bit.
Right. And that, yeah, that was tough because I felt like I was quitting. And
Yeah.
like my whole life, I had been Keira the runner,
Mhm.
and now I was Keira the runner who didn't run anymore. So I set out on this journey to find out who else Keira was. But there was a lot of guilt from just the feeling that I quit. But a funny thing happened. I was okay.
Yeah.
Like I was okay. Like I found all these other things I like to do. Like I got into computer science. I became a developer and I really enjoyed that. I had a really great time working a 9 to 5 job. And then I got into CrossFit and I did cycling classes and I found this whole life outside of running that like really was a lot of fun. And so I think like seeing for me what was on the other side of quitting or failure was one of the most important lessons that I've ever learned in my life because I was okay.
Mhm.
So now coming back into like round two, not being afraid to fail is my superhero power. Like it is a dangerous thing to stand on a line next to someone who's not afraid to fail
Mhm.
because I will go for it every single time and I either hit my goal or I learn something new. And I know when it doesn't go my way, I know how to fail. Like I know how to get over it. I know how to learn from it. I know how to become better from it. I see it more as a step
Sure.
than like a dead end.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and that's a dangerous person to stand on a line against.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, put it all out there. I think your hiatus was roughly 2009 to 2016. In that time, though, you did get married. You had 2 kids. You're working 9 to 5 as a developer. Anything else during that time that you felt like was going to transition you to the next phase? Are you still doing some of those things? Are you still writing software? Are you still developing? Are you still writing code, or is that not there anymore?
Nope, I am not doing that anymore. And actually, during that hiatus, so I started as developer, and then I got pulled over to be the director of marketing at a running company.
That was in Virginia,
And I
right?
think in Virginia, yeah, Potomac River Running or PR Run and Walk. And I think this piece of the puzzle was so important for my running journey because I still wasn't running at all, but I was surrounded by people. Like my literal job title was like a director of awesomeness, I think. I think I got to create it myself and that was it. But I was just trying to spread the love of running.
Yeah.
Get people out, get people moving their body. And I learned how many other reasons why people run other than how fast. And I think that unlocked this whole new beautiful relationship with running in me because I could run and not be competitive. I could go out and train just because I wanted to go out for a run and run with a friend and not have like some race on the horizon. So it was so freeing to me to see all the other reasons why people run and be people's supporters. So I just became a cheerleader. I still wasn't running myself, but I was supporting people. I was encouraging people. I was trying to make it really fun for the community to get out and to move. And I think that was a really important lesson for me to learn through helping others.
Yeah. Do you have anything that sticks out during that time of why someone ran that you carry with you? I'm thinking of a couple of things. Like I know I've heard a lot of people running through major life changes, which, running got them through that. I also, I've carried forward many patients who ran very competitively in the local scene and things and have done really well. And, they contract some kind of disease that, takes it away from them. And, I've taken that with me from a standpoint of like, hey, you get to be out here kind of thing. But I don't know if any story that you kind of brought with you from that you maybe lean on or you think about, when it's -10 out and you need to go for a run or anything like that.
Yeah, there are particular people I met and their story that is like just permanently implanted on my heart. But I think like the overall was meeting those people who were said that they were not runners
Mm.
and they've never run before. This isn't for them. And being part of their journey to find that they could run, and it started out, well, do you want just come to the run club and walk? We have a bunch of people that just walk with us, that just come and be part of it. Come and move your body. And then after time, they would feel comfortable because they felt like they had an invite and they belonged and they were the norm, right? We
Yeah.
had runners, we had walkers, we had run and walkers. And then seeing them then think, well, maybe I can run a little bit during this. And then you see them doing a 5K eventually. And like, I would cry all the time watching people do their first 5K. That is such a cool thing. So I think like the thing that I took away is just like how to find the courage to start.
Yeah.
And like fast forward then like 5 years after that, and I'm in a very similar position. I haven't run for almost a decade. I have 2 kids now, like 0 and 1. My husband at the time, he was deployed, so he was just gone. I was overweight in a new town with just, I had some family, but no friends yet. And I decided to go out one day and go for a run. And I really pulled on those people that I saw run for the first time that like, this isn't going to be easy. This is going to be scary, but I'm going to find the courage to go out for this first run today and then just see where it goes. And that was like that run. Actually, like I talk about this a lot in my book that I tried to go out and run 3 minutes that first day, thinking that that would be a low bar that would feel achievable. It would get me out the door. And then surely 3 minutes would be 5 minutes, could be 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Like this would probably be a 20-minute run, but let's just say 3 minutes to get myself out the door. And I ran as far as I could until like everything shut down. And I looked down at my watch and it had been 90 seconds. And I like stopped and I cried and I walked home, but I accepted like, okay, well, I'm a 90-second runner right now. But I don't always have to be. Maybe if I keep working at this, I could eventually get up to my 3 minutes. And I did. And I eventually got up to 3 minutes. And then about 5 years after that race, I broke the American record in the marathon, or that run, that 90-second run. I broke the American record. And the thing that I was most proud of wasn't breaking the record. It wasn't qualifying for the Olympic trials. It wasn't winning national titles and making U.S. teams. It was that first 90-second run. That is the thing I am most proud of in my entire running story.
Yeah. So I was listening about that. Is that where the book picks up? Is right around there, or is it before that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Great.
chapter 1 starts breaking the American record, and then why I was like, I talk about, the first line of the book is on the 4th happiest day of my life, I sat in the shower and cried. And like that, so it explains why I was crying and what that race meant to me and why that was, just such a surreal feeling that day.
What was the impetus to go out for that 3 miles? Like, was it, I don't even want to put any ideas out there. So what kind of drove you like, I got to get out there and start and just try something? Like, was there anything that happened or what was your mindset to do that?
Yeah, I think that I needed something for myself. I was exhausted.
Sure.
I had 2 little kids that were pulling from me. I felt like for the past 3 years, I was either pregnant or nursing. And I just felt like, okay, now I know I'm done having kids, so my body is mine again.
Hmm.
So I felt like I had some ownership over it, so I could turn my body into what I wanted to be. It wasn't just some baby making and baby feeding
Yeah,
factory. So I think that that played into it. And then I needed something. Like I was with like a husband that was going to deploy, like that's pretty lonely. And I
sure.
needed something for me. So more so mental health, but also like I gained a lot of weight when I was pregnant. Like doctors kept telling me to slow down. I was gaining too much weight. And then, you have the baby and you think you'll at least lose the weight of the baby. And I felt like I walked out of the hospital even heavier than I walked in. So
Yeah.
I had some work to do.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I have an N of two. You and, having this conversation with my wife. One, being home with the kids and not having like someone to talk to, and then just feeling like everything's dependent. And then you get to this like mental health state, I feel like, and you know, you obviously handled it the way you did and you went out. And I think at some point you got into the groove, right? And then talk to me about the root beer floats, because that was like the trade-off, and how did that come about?
Okay, so this was almost a year after I started running. I was still, I guess maybe 9 months, because I was still nursing and I was craving ice cream all the time, like all the time, but not just any ice cream, root beer floats. And then I decided, like, Keira, like, you got to slow your roll. You're drinking way too many root beer floats. And like, so let's instead like turn this into a game. Let's make this fun. And let me preface all this with, I don't think you need to earn your food. I think you can enjoy root beer float just because you want to enjoy a root
Hmm.
beer float. But for me, this became a game and it became fun. So I decided that I told myself that if I could run 10 miles in one day, then I would get a root beer float at night. And so I started running 10 miles every day because I wanted a root beer float so desperately that night. Like I would get the kids in bed and I would just want to sit there and relax with the root beer float. And it turns out when you're running 10 miles a day, that gets you into really good marathon
Yeah.
pace. So I kind of accidentally trained for a marathon just because I wanted to drink so many root beer floats.
I'm wondering if it
It's so
was
weird.
like the,
And the point of that, I don't, again, you don't need to earn your food, but I do like the reason why I tell that story is because I was finding ways to make it really fun for me. I was celebrating small victories. I was rewarding myself and like giving myself a pat on the back in a way that meant something to me. So I think
Mhm.
that those lessons are more important than the root beer float itself. But that was just what the carrot on the end of the stick, and root beer floats sound more appealing than carrots do.
Yeah. So you go from you get up to that point, and then you do your first marathon, which I believe was with your husband. Who is he a runner as well by trade, or did he end up just jumping into this? How did you ran that one, and then you got all the way to punch your ticket to Olympic trials at Grandma's Marathon, which is I love that marathon. But um, during that time, I guess what did that look like as far as doing that first one with your husband, and then going to Grandma's to get your Olympic trials qualification?
Yeah, he ran in high school and college, and he was deployed for a lot. But that Christmas, I gave him a gift of a marathon entry, which to me was hilarious because it's a kind gift because marathon entries are expensive, but it also then he had to train for a marathon, which is like a backhanded gift totally. Like why would you sign me up for
Yeah.
this? This is ridiculous. And I got a good laugh out of that. But then I felt bad and I signed up with him. But he was so much faster than me at the time that we didn't even train together. So, but yeah, we ended up
Hmm.
training for a marathon, and then that was really cool. And that was the first marathon that I did without walking. And then I was like, whoa, if I can do a whole marathon without walking, could I run faster? And it was kind of from this marathon that every time I would do one, I would think, well, what if, I can do this? Or what if I became intentional? Could I do this? What if I
Sure.
got a coach now? So the goals kept growing from there after that and turned into just like, I don't know, all of a sudden it was this train that couldn't be stopped.
Yeah. So you went from a 3:14 when you ran with your husband, and then you ended up down to like a 2:40. And like it
Mhm.
was not a long time frame to do that. And then Was that all self-coach, or is that when I think you had Scott Rasko as a coach when you got out of
Mhm.
college, and then did you pick him back up during that time, or were you self-coaching?
No, that I got 314, and then the next one was 247, and that was off of the root beer
Oh,
float
that was a
training
big one.
plan.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that was the difference there is I went on the root beer float training plan and ran a 247. But I think also something that's really interesting about the 247 is a couple things. Well, the first being that the Nike Vaporfly next percent, the first Vaporfly, the first super shoe ever released was released like a month or two before that marathon. And my birthday was 2 weeks before that marathon. So I was like, $250, that's a lot to spend on a shoe. But if it could take, they like said it would take 4%, it's like 4% more efficient. So I was like, if I run 4% faster, that takes minutes off my marathon time. And then I was like, yeah, I'll pay $250 to run for less minutes during a marathon. So I think that also was a significant change from the 314 to the 247. So not only then I'm just fitter, but now I'm in the shoe that has a plate and like a super foam that was just incredible. Like I remember the first time putting those shoes on, I went out for a run and I like was like a little kid with a new pair of shoes. Like, look how fast I can go. Like
Yeah.
it was, oh my gosh, it was like the best feeling in the world. Like I just couldn't run fast enough to get tired. So I think that was a really significant. And I think for people training for a marathon, like super shoes are such a great help when you're running that long to have something that's absorbing a lot of the impact and something helping you with like your cadence of pushing off and everything. So like I do think it's important when you're working for hard to invest in yourself and something like that. But also it's a luxury, right? They're expensive
Yeah.
shoes. So I think there's a couple things going on there.
Yeah, I have not made that jump yet. I've been told to. I'm like, I'm just going to stash that for. So I'm 40 now. So I have this goal of going. My PR in marathon's 251 at grandma's. I'm trying to get under 250. I had a couple patients tell me, well, you're just getting older. So I think they did it on purpose, honestly, because they knew it would just fire me up. So now I'm like, well,
Good.
I got to show them that I can still PR. But I kept that in my back pocket. I haven't used super shoes yet, but you're the second person who's come across and like, you have to try them. Are you using those? Obviously you use those from that point going forward. And how do you incorporate, I'm assuming you incorporate them in training, like you're not dusting them off on race day and then running in a brand new pair of shoes on race day.
Yeah, it is important to train in them and get time on feet than them because they do change your gait, and you would know a lot
Mhm.
more about this being a PT, but they change your gait slightly. So you need to like work up the tolerance and make sure you're engaging your glutes and you're not like because I think I found my stride length is a little bit longer in super shoes. And so I needed to make sure that my glutes could support that, my hip flexors could support that. So I needed time on feet to build up the correct muscles to be really efficient in those shoes. But super shoes aren't for the best. They are for finding your best. So
Yeah.
I think they are made for everyone. And if you're putting so much time and it is important to you about the time that you run, and that is one of your goals, I think it is such a helpful tool. But yeah, I would say that a couple things. One, the super shoes are the most efficient, like when they're newer.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't put on 200 miles on the shoe and go race on them, but I do think it's important to do some runs in them before, at least one long run, and get used to it and make sure that you can feel it. And then every like brand of super shoe has a different ride. So you might want to go into a running store and try them on, run around in the store and just see what naturally feels really comfortable for you because they should be feeling very comfortable. And like I did that when I started, well, at first Nike was the only one, but when
Mhm.
everyone else came out with theirs, I went into a running store and I tried them all on, and the Nike super shoe is the best fit for me. But there are options out there that you can try, but I mean, I like Nike the most, but
Yeah.
right.
During this build back up where you qualify for Olympic trials, you and your husband were training at the same time. And we go through this in our house, and it gets a little tricky. We have two kids as well, and you're both training for a race, and time becomes even tighter. And then you want to we have to stagger our long runs. Someone gets Saturday, someone gets Sunday, which means there's no like extra couch time, or like, hey, let's have a couple glasses of wine. Like, well, you did your long run, mine's tomorrow. Did you guys run into that? How'd you plan for it? Did you just have flexible schedules that allowed you to kind of do what you needed to do, or was there any like tension there, or not tension, but challenges just from both training for like that first marathon?
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, like at the time I was in real estate. So I was doing real estate full time. So I could drop off the kids and then I could do my run right after. So I would try to fit in my runs while the kids were in daycare or school. Um, and then otherwise, I had to ask for a lot of help. But also during this time too, by the time our daughter was 3, he was gone for well over a year of that. So I had to ask for a lot of help with people around, asking my parents to come down and help, asking a neighbor to come over watch the kids. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were super helpful. And they would just be like, what do you need this weekend? How can we help? And I, be like, hey, well, I wanted to get a long run. Can you? And they were just so helpful. But I think learning to ask for help is such a huge tool, but it's really hard to do. And I definitely having family close was very helpful for me. And I know that's not possible for everyone.
Yeah, I definitely struggle with that myself, of asking for help, because I'm like, I don't need it, but it's nice to have sometimes. Did you end up doing any like stroller running or anything like that? Did you have the pleasure of pushing your kids around?
A ton.
Yeah.
A ton. Yeah, I had the double bob. And the thing, it is so hard to push a stroller.
Yeah.
It's so
while
hard,
feeding snacks around the thing.
And that was my next point, Steve. It's even harder to keep 2 young kids occupied. And they love being outside. They love being in strollers. But just the straight running, we'd have to I'd bring multiple snack cups and lollipops and applesauce. And then we would lose a shoe every run. Yep. I'd have to eventually bring Kindles just to don't judge, but I had to somehow occupy them so I could get that time. So that to me was more difficult than and then also I think part of what I liked from running so much was it was my release. Mm-hmm. And it was something for me in the day where I didn't have to be mom, that I could turn my brain off and I could be alone. And I didn't have a lot of that time. So I really so then when I was doubling running with that, I felt like I couldn't release in all the ways that I needed running to release, I guess.
I just remember those days of dropping something, having to go get it. Or my son would then learn the street signs. And if heaven forbid I did not stop at a stop sign, I would hear about it for 15 minutes, how I didn't stop at the stop sign. I'm like, can you just, I'm out here to be for quiet. Can you please just take a nap or do something different?
See, I think if that was my son, I would have had to make something up. Be like, oh, don't worry. I have a letter from the policeman that says I'm allowed to go through since I have blah, blah. I would shut that down.
I still use it to this day. The ones with the white, it's going to bite me when they get their license. The ones with the white around it mean they're optional. So you don't have to, worry about it. I will say though, it is very exciting. I did a 5K with him and pushing it. And it was a local one with a lot of the high school kids and things, and passing kids in your 30s with pushing a stroller that then they're 16 running. They think they're all hot in cross country, and passing them with a stroller is just, and then I'd purposely act like I'm not breathing and end up passing them. But it does give you some.
Oh, wait, is this hard?
Yeah.
Is this hard? Yeah. But with kids, you have to get a little pseudo-intellectual there just to see how to they are smart.
Yeah.
Kids are so clever. So how do you, how are you able just to balance that? And then also when you're running, your brain is so fatigued that that extra energy to figure out how to not trick your kids, but really make sure they're excited about the adventure you're on, is a little bit,
So I talked about my daughter was the one that put me into my first hiatus because she was a challenging baby. And my son I could run with forever. And then my daughter, there's multiple times where I'm like, hey, I'm going to take Abigail out on a run. I'd be back within 3 minutes. I'm like, she's not going. So pushing 2, hopefully they were both decent for you. But I struggled with one of my kids. They would just not want to go.
Oh my gosh. But then one would fall asleep and you're like, jackpot.
Yeah.
But then the other one would notice the other one's asleep and be like, hey, Tommy, wake up, Tommy. And you're like, no.
Been there. When you get past this, so you get to, I want to kind of come back to your journey with it. And I could talk about trying to train with kids for a long time. So we'll keep the train moving. You come out of this and you get to It's 2019, 2020, pre-pandemic. I'm just going to kind of read off some of the things. Penn relays, you ran Berlin, Atlanta Olympic trials, which was during COVID. I think, just talking through, your husband's deployed at this point, or is he home?
I think he came home, I think it was in 2019 maybe.
Okay.
So, and then but he was still part of the Guard, so he traveled a ton.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What do you
So
remember?
yeah.
Yeah. So during this time, like I think COVID, especially with kids and they're starting to become school age, I remember being on calls and they had like at-home gym class here in New York. So like my son's doing like stations behind me while I'm on calls, and the kids are home a lot more. Do you feel like you were just leaning on your your network a little bit during that time still, or how did you progress through that period? Because life was so different. A lot of races weren't happening. What do you remember?
Yeah, COVID, I remember COVID being okay.
Hmm.
I like the kids were in a good age where they were still like pre-K, and then eventually my son went into kindergarten. But I feel like that age was fine because, they were home and they were playful. Like I wasn't worried about trying to homeschool them or education.
Sure.
So I felt like the ages of my kids, even though they were a lot, they're also like a lot of fun. And just having them home was really cool. And I would get up early and I would take the first shift and I'd go get my run in. And then when I got back, my husband, we're actually now divorced, but so my ex-husband
Okay.
would then work all day and I'd be with the kids all day. And then he would try to get his run in whenever he could. So we really we did the best job we could balancing it. But I feel like our kids' age made that a little easier. But then also like when all of the races shut down, I think for me, I was on this like, don't call it a comeback tour.
Hmm.
I was like, I'm not doing this for the races. I'm doing this for me. So I put pedal to the metal and trained my butt off. And I like staged my own time trials. So I'd have something to train for. I ended up planning my own race when you plan your own race, you get to name it. So I
Keira
called it the Up
444
Dog.
Invitational.
That was so good. I called it the Up Dog 10 mile.
Nice.
So when people could say, "What's up, dog?" I could say, "Nothing, dog."
It's
What's
like the
up with
Office
you?
episode.
Exactly. That's so good. And I ended up breaking my first American record in that race during COVID. So COVID, it was hard in so many ways, but I also think that I got really creative and figured out how to make the most of it. And just with I had one friend that held weekly trivia games over Zoom. And then I was doing, FaceTimes and
Hmm.
Zooms with my family and friends. So I found a way to feel connected, even though it was a really lonely, isolating time.
Yeah. Were you running with anyone at this point? Are you solo running for most of your training?
I was solo running at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that pretty much how most of your time in Virginia went before you moved out to Utah? Were you doing a lot of solo running?
No, actually, at some point, I found a guy named Silas France, and he ran for Georgetown, and he was kicking my butt in all the races. So I said, actually, you know what? At this time in 2020, I was starting to work out with him again. I think we took a break initially during COVID, but then we started working out together again. But he was incredible. He's such a selfless runner that I'd be like, hey, I have 40 times 200 tomorrow. You want to come do it? And he'd be like, sure. Or I'd be like, hey, I have 8 mile repeats. Do you want to come? Be like, yeah, I'm in. And he's also just a really zen runner. So I
Hmm.
think he taught me a lot about one, learning to tuck in and just go along for the ride because my paces were much easier for him. But then also just again, there was no extra energy or stress. It was just what's the workout? Let's do it. And so he really taught me an incredible amount of patience. And then I really credit him and his girlfriend, Emily. She would come around. We called herself the hobby joggers, but she would come around and I feel were the first people that really gave me confidence because they were able to connect what my workouts I was doing to what that means. Silas sometimes be like, wow, that workout was incredible. Some of the guys that ran at Georgetown wouldn't have been able to do this,
Hmm.
so they were able to if you keep improving at this level, Keira, you are going to do some incredible things. And they were the first people that really started putting my mind forward other than just like, what am I doing today? So I'm really thankful for them and their like that they came along and helped me out so much.
Did they take you through like the Houston half where you ran a 110 all the way into like the Houston Marathon where you broke that record, or were they involved throughout that entire period?
Yeah, so they actually moved away. They got an incredible opportunity in California. And I want to say that was in, well, actually, first they moved. So they used to live in Richmond and then they moved to Charlottesville, which is about an hour away. And I was like, that's not far enough. I'll still come work out with you. So I would drive at least once a week to Charlottesville to work out with
Hmm.
Silas. And that was awesome. So, but then I think they moved away maybe in 2021. And so then I found another guy, his name is Cole Sugar, and he started working out with me. So he was like my main training buddy leading into breaking the Houston Marathon. So I was always able to find these dudes that would come and help and pace me. And I'm really grateful for that because I don't think I could have gotten into those paces without a little help.
Yeah. You in 2021 you signed with Nike, and
Mhm.
that allowed you, from what I understand, to free up some time from being a realtor. And then I got to imagine, did you feel like any extra pressure when that occurred, or was it more relieving? Like, hey, I can dedicate more to this.
Yeah, I felt like more so than pressure, I felt support. So I felt like they had my back. And the
Hmm.
reason I went with Nike, one, like you heard my whole spiel, I love their shoes. I love how innovative they are. And I firmly believe like any new invention in like shoe technology will be from Nike. So I want to be on that team. But I also, when they first were talking to me and considering signing me, they're like, we like Kira being Kira. Like, we don't want to tell you where to move. We want to tell you how to race or where to race, who to coach with. We want to support you doing you because this is a really because that's really powerful. And I just felt so supportive that I did real estate. Actually, like the day before I broke the Houston record or the Friday before I had a settlement that day. So I was doing, I remember at the Chicago Marathon in 2021, I was in drug testing, writing a contract out.
Hmm.
So throughout this whole time, I was doing real estate, which I think was a really great balance for me because I can be an anxious person in life. So having something else to put all that extra energy into, I think was a really great thing while I was finding my self in this round two of running. But yeah, I just felt support. Like I felt like someone had my back. They're willing to help with whatever I needed. Like I can still call and be like, hey, I need help with XYZ, and they're there to troubleshoot with me. So I just felt like I all of a sudden had this incredible resource and backing that was so helpful.
Yeah. Did you have any? It sounds like you did your due diligence, right? Because they had a bumpy road with some athletes for a while, and they seemed like
Mhm.
they addressed some of that. But did you have any pause, or is that why you did your due diligence? Just because you wanted to make sure the fit was there, and that kind of, once you got through that, you felt more comfortable.
Yeah, that is. And they've admitted that they've got it wrong before. Like
Hmm.
they've done things in the sport of running that they've learned from and grown. Like I mean, now in their contract, there's an 18-month maternity policy, which is longer than any other brand's
Yeah.
policy. Well, that I know of. I don't know the other brands, but from what I know, that is the longest and most protective for a woman in pregnancy. And so I think one, I was seeing the change, but then also I felt like I could be part of the change and I could help educate and help move the bar and help get more support for mothers, for
Sure.
women, for aging women, for just people taking a different route than the normal. And so that felt really powerful that I felt like I could be part of this continuing to grow and evolve and to be better. So that was definitely a pull for me too.
Okay. And then is that, this is kind of jumping ahead a bit, but I think they have a hub in Salt Lake area. Is that right?
Yep.
Is that how you
Mhm.
kind of got pulled in that direction, or is there other reasons you got pulled out towards Salt Lake other than
Yeah,
it's beautiful?
oh gosh, it is beautiful. But there is a few reasons. But yeah, have being that it is a Nike hub is huge in that they have a lot of support here. But I was pulled out. I think one, I was looking for a team.
Hmm.
to train with. I really wanted to experience altitude and how my body would react to that and what it was like. And then also like Coach Ed Eyestone, I was really, really drawn to him. He was an incredible runner in his day. He's been an incredible coach. He's had so much success coaching marathoners. And I really wanted to learn a different style from someone else and someone that's been there, done that, and coach people that have been there, done that. And yeah, I've really loved being a part of a team. Not only like just having people to be there with, but just seeing other people grow and learn and be able to support other runners. And I'm definitely, well, there are some people that train with us that are older, but I'm like the oldest on the team. And I really love that. Like, I love being able to help mentor. I love when people ask me questions. I'm an open book. So it's been just so fulfilling for me. I get a lot from them, but I'm also able to give a lot, which makes me feel really good.
Are they dropping any like senior jokes on you at this point or not yet?
Oh my. You know, it's
Like
funny
brunch and
actually. Okay. What recently, actually, this was probably like a few months ago, someone called me Granny, like on the track,
it seems
like
like
one of
that.
the guys.
Yeah.
And then I just like kind of ignored it. Like I am like, doesn't faze me. But someone else like stepped up and was like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Come
You
on.
don't talk to, and I was like, thank you. Yeah.
You
And
gotta
they're
lean
like,
into
who
that.
you like,
Hey, Kira, you want to have dinner
yeah.
at 4 o'clock? You know, you
Yes,
lean
I
into all those
do. I
things. Yeah,
love dinner
I
at
do too.
4 o'clock. Are
Yeah.
you kidding me? That sounds awesome. Sign me
Bed by
up.
8.
Yeah, I
Let's
could
go.
totally. Yeah, that is the perfect night. Sign me up for dinner at 4. That sounds great.
If we go back to when you broke the record, the marathon record at Houston in 2022, was there a difference in how you were training, or was it just compounding consistency? Like, I'm just curious on like total volume for the week before you started transitioning to a different style of training. Were you adding volume? Was it just consistency over time? Like, where were you seeing those gains, or were you pulling things like, oh, I tapped out the super shoes, or so you did that. Were you working on run form? Were you working on efficiency? Was it strength? Where do you feel like that continued progress? Because you made a very consistent progress moving forward. Where did that come from?
I think everything you just said. I think it was all of those pieces. In 2019 and in 2020, I think I had one unplanned day off. So I was so consistent. And I was running higher mileage then. I was anywhere from 90 miles a week. I got up to 130 one week. And so I think I had this gigantic base of body of work because I
Mm-hmm.
was so consistent, like you just said. And then in 2021, at the beginning of the year, I got injured and that stunk, but I learned a lot about myself. I learned what type of PT I now needed. I found the cause to that injury, and there was a significant weakness imbalance in my body. And so I found a PT that specializes with runners and especially in like what I was dealing with. And his PT regimen was so helpful for me. And I think he was able to build up just like my hips kept getting out of line
Mm-hmm.
and I have like a hip issue. So he built up my glutes, he built up my hamstrings, he built up my quads. Like I didn't shy away from exercises because of that. I was doing more to support my body. So I became so strong during that injury and I was able then to build and add more to it. But actually leading into the Houston Marathon, my volume went down. I think I was anywhere from probably 60 to maybe it got into the mid 80s going into that race. But I think that was also really important too, because coming back from an injury, like you can't just force it and go
Mm-hmm.
right back up to a high volume. So I give my coach, Scott Roscoe, so much credit for being really patient. And that is something that he's so great at seeing the big picture. And he's not willing to risk for a short term gain to force anything. So we kept my volume slowly growing, but with appropriate recovery. And I think it was a combination of like the consistency for a couple of years and then figuring out how to get stronger and then getting back into doing some like faster workouts. So it was kind of, yeah, literally a combination of everything you just said. I could have just said yes. We could have moved on to the next one.
No, that's good. So you also did you do a wide variety of distances. It's not so 10Ks, 5Ks, 10 milers. Are you treating those like a build to each one, or are you like, hey, this is like, you probably don't commit to a race too far out, but you have an eye on like, hey, this is kind of what we're going to be looking at. We're not going to commit yet. And then you put these other races in, because like it's hard to work as hard as you can when you're by yourself. It certainly helps to have people around you that can push you, but there's something magical that happens on race day where the adrenaline's pumping and you can hit paces that you normally, struggle with. So do you kind of slot those races in as pieces of training, like B plus races or B races, and then have that bigger goal? Or are you not sure? And you can't imagine you're not sure. Like, are those there purposefully?
Yeah, that is, yeah, very, very insightful question. And I think the way that I look at it is first, like right now, like long-term goal is the Olympic trials in 2028.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I'm training for right now. So all of my other goals are going to support me getting ready in different ways for that marathon. And then other than that, I like to do 2 marathons a year. And in between marathons, I like to do shorter events to work on leg speed. Like, I think it is so important after a marathon build or before a marathon build to really develop that speed. Because when your top end speed comes down and you can get your mile time down, your 5K time, your 10K, that marathon pace is going to feel a whole lot easier. So I do think it's important to be dynamic with your races. And for me, that's really fun for me too. So I think there's some people that are like, at marathons, I only want to run long. That's all I really feel like doing. And that's fine if that's all you really want to do. But I do think changing it up and playing around with shorter races just to get that leg speed going will really, really help you bring down your marathon time.
Yeah.
And I also I think there's another way to do this too. I think because for a while I was just training my butt off and then finding a race to support. And I think that's a really powerful way to do it too. I think some people need that end goal, but I think that can put some pressure on people that may feel unnecessary. So you can also just start training and running and doing whatever type of workouts you feel like. And then once you get to a point where you feel strong, then find a race that fits in that category.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a lot of different ways to do it. And I think it's a very personal.
Just the fact that you mentioned 2 marathons a year is kind of where you tap out. And even that can be a lot, but we're in this, what I'm seeing as patients come through is like, if you follow a lot of the influencers and things, like they're racking off races left and right. 2 things. One, most of the ones that that come across me are very early 20s. Your body certainly responds a little bit different. They're newer to running, so they don't have that compounding effect over the years. But,
Yes.
The pressure to feel like you're not doing enough is out there. And, people are trying to get 3-4 marathons in a year. And I guess it's different if you're racing them versus running them. But I think there's a lot of outside pressure to run too many races and overcook yourself.
Yeah. And I really if that sounds fun to you, go for it and see what happens. See how your body responds. And your body may tell you through sickness or injury that this is not for you.
Yeah.
And I would listen to your body. But I also think if you're doing them as more relaxed runs, you're not 100% all out. I think anytime running a marathon, it's going to take so much out of you. You need to respect that recovery. But I do think if that is your goal and that sounds fun to you, go for it and see what happens, but just be prepared for a lot of, injury prevention and injury recovery. But I think if that does not sound fun to you, you don't have to do it that way. You don't even have to race if you don't want to race, or just pick one goal race a year. So I think, and that's another secret to running too, is finding goals that authentically excite you. Not just what you think you should be doing or what you saw someone on Instagram do so you feel like you need to do. What gets you up and what makes you want to train. Those are the things that you should be aiming for.
I think that stops the burnout too, right? If you're constantly chasing something, you might not, but history shows us two things. One, it's not sustainable to be, racing a lot very often, especially if you got a lot of other things going on in your life and you can't give the time that it takes to keep the ship together. But, not burning out because you're constantly chasing something, and find stuff to have fun, which we talked about earlier, which I think is such a critical point. And then, being, people, social is very much it's the highlight reel, right? Of what you're seeing from a lot of people. So one thing that, I've seen transparency with you on, which is great, is Orlando, which you led from the front. did not have the day that you were expecting. I'd love to just kind of understand that a bit more. It was a warm day. We just left Orlando right before that happened, so I remember that weekend there was a lot of hype. Talk me through that, and then just kind of it was part of the journey. It's a stepping stone. It's probably a tough pill to swallow at the time. What did you take away from that? You ended up dropping, I think, around 16, 17, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that race was really hard on so many ways. I think that going into the race, I've never had a build that went as perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I was the most fit going in for the 2024 trials than I've ever been in my whole life. Like if it was like on that Houston day, like with cold weather and like a paced race, like I would have PR'd on that day. Like I was so certain I was the fittest I'd ever been. But I also, um, yeah, I don't think I trained for the race on that day. So I think I was in great shape for a marathon, but I don't think I was ready for the heat and humidity in Orlando. I think that took a huge toll on me. So even though I was ready for a marathon, I hadn't prepared for the marathon on that day in those conditions, which I think was a really big takeaway for me. And then also, I think racing from the front, probably not the best strategy. It was a strategy my coach came up with, and I was like, yeah, that sounds good. Just drop everyone and win. That sounds awesome. But I think that really it didn't give enough respect to all the other women in the field. That was the most incredible field of American women I've ever competed against. And I couldn't do that. And because of that, yeah, around 16, like I lost contact with the pack. I remember my quads and my glutes just gave out, like, and they just locked up and they were done.
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a weird feeling. I have never had that sort of fatigue or lockup or just experience in a race. But like going into that race, I was like, I'll do whatever like when it gets hard, I'll get harder. Like when people run fast, I'll run fast. Like I just knew I could just handle it. So it was so strange for me to be in this position now. I was prepared to fight so hard. And all of a sudden my legs gave out and there was nothing I could do. And then I started seeing stars, which I was thinking at the time, like, oh, this is really beautiful. But like, why am I literally seeing stars? And then I started to get really, really cold.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would
Heat
get
stroke.
really hot and then really cold. So then I realized like something really bad is going on right now. So it was right around 20 miles. I stepped off the course. And I have never DNF'd in a race before. That was my first time. But in a way, I felt really powerful that was on my terms. And I knew things were taking a really bad turn. Like I could, like the fact that I was with it enough to realize how bad that was. And then in a way, like I felt really powerful that this has been my journey. This is a race for me. And like at this point, like, I don't know, I'm not going to hit my goal, but I don't need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Because I've gone like back after Worlds in 2022, like I had to go to the hospital after that race. So like I know how to run myself into that point. But that was really, really hard. And I think there was a couple things that helped me process. Like one, when I finally got to the tent to get my stuff afterwards, I think there were 3 women that came up to me and said like, Keira, I just want to say thank you. I'm also a mother. I quit running and I came back into the sport after hearing your story. You gave me permission to try again. And now I'm here. Like, look at me go. And that like helped me zoom out and just be like, look at me go. Like 8 years ago, I couldn't even imagine running a 5K. And now I'm at the Olympic trials and I'm sad that I didn't make the Olympic team, like that helped me put everything into perspective. But then also and I reached out to Sarah Hall and Molly Seidel, 2 like fierce competitors of mine. And I just asked for help processing it. And they were so gracious and so kind. And they were just incredible helping me deal with disappointment.
Yeah.
Like I didn't feel crazy. I didn't feel alone. It felt normal. Like it was sad and it was hard, but I felt loved in a way and by competitors, which is really strange. But I think I needed almost to like use my like kind of regulate my emotions from theirs and how they deal with disappointment. So I'm so appreciative for both of them for being so supportive. But then also like I don't know, like I give myself like after failure 24 to 72 hours to feel sad and to like be like that sucked. That is not how I wanted that to turn out. But then like at some point you got to be like, okay, so what are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
What's next? Like where do I go from here? And I think after that race, it took me more than 72 hours. I think it was a full week of being like, that feels like a nightmare. Like thinking back on that race just feels like a nightmare. But then like, I was able to come to this conclusion, two things. One, I put everything I had into that race. I have no regrets with how hard. There is not one single thing I could have done more other than train for the heat in
Mm-hmm.
a better way. And I would do it all again. So I put everything in. I got my heart totally smashed on, and I would 100% set it up. Like I would do it again with risk of getting my heart smashed on it. It was so worth it. So that was like one big takeaway. And then two, I just accepted that like, here's my journey. This is my journey. You know, this is where my path went. And now I can decide where it goes next. And so I think a combination of all of that processing it like helped me get through, but overall probably one of the most disappointing races in my life. And also like this is not necessarily what I was thinking about that day, but my book, I was writing it while I was living it. And the last chapter of my book is that race. And I had the book completely done and I had that chapter and I had it left empty depending how it would go. And I remember thinking this would be the perfect ending of my book if I made an Olympic team. Like that would be awesome. And then like I had this big epiphany like afterwards and I was like, oh man, I ruined my ending of my book. But then I realized like this is the perfect ending. Like this is literally what I talk about the entire book, not being afraid to fail, going for it, how you deal with disappointment, how do we learn and how do we move on? And I have another opportunity just to show that this is life. Like sometimes we go for things and we fall short and that's okay. That's being human. And so like I appreciative now like of how that particular story ended. And it really feels like the perfect ending, even though it's not what I wanted out of that day.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've talked about with runners too is the allure of, especially the longer distance stuff that you prepare for so long for, like nothing is guaranteed. So it's almost part of the drag towards like you can do everything right and you could just have a bad day or something doesn't line up. We just traveled to Berlin and ran on the sun this past September, and we trained and we both have these goals. We get there and it's 80 degrees at the finish, and you're like, well, this is the way it goes, and you do what you can do with it. But I think so much that I love about running is like, even if you put in the work, nothing is going to be guaranteed for it. I think that's a lot with life in general. Like nothing's guaranteed, but you see that time and time again with running.
Yeah. And it makes it beautiful because the times that it does go right, it makes it even more special because it's not guaranteed. And I do think that's a healthy perspective to have is that, like, let's see what happens. Like, I don't know how this is going to go. Nothing's guaranteed, but like, I'm going to go for it anyways.
Yeah. See what I'm made of.
And see what happens. Yeah.
How was that for, I'm thinking of, I'm just littered with disappointments in my running. I had a experience in Chicago, came in around a corner, jumped out of the way of someone, felt my Achilles tweak, and then basically locked up for like the last 10 miles. It was like a, did you ever see an Ironman where like they get off the bike and like, they're like all hunched? I felt like that was me, wanted to drop. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to finish this thing. It's not a big deal. I crossed the finish line. I'll never forget my daughter saying, well, at least you didn't quit. And funny thing is now she brings it up occasionally to like give me a dagger. Like, remember when you were like really upset about your race? She's a tough cookie. But I feel like even for you in Orlando, like, did you talk to your kids about it at all? Did you, talk through like, yeah, I dropped and this is what we learned from it? Or like, did you take anything to your kids with that?
Yeah, 100%. They were bought in with that goal. Like it was such a family goal at that point. Like everyone wanted it so badly. So everyone was
Hmm.
very disappointed. So, and that was the tough part, is that it's such a gift to have all that support and all that love and so many people on the journey. But after the race, I was dealing with a lot of emotion. So I felt
Sure.
like I had to just hide it and then help everyone else, because everyone else was really sad. And so that was another like strange thing. But I think also like it is so important to show your kids how to set goals and how to go after them and how to work hard. But I also like a really important school like skill, like what happens when you lose? Like what happens when you fall short of your goal? Like what happens then? And I am really proud that I was able to show them, yeah, I didn't hit my goal, but I held my head up high and
Yeah,
I'm
put
going to
yourself
learn
out
from
there.
it.
Hmm.
I'm going to put myself out there. So I think that that's just another lesson for kids. But that night, like my son, he was really disappointed in me that I quit. And he and I like had ended up having a long talk, because he was like, "Mom, like we don't quit.
That
Like you
hurts.
always tell me, like
Yeah.
we don't quit. Like and you quit. Like why'd you quit?" And my first response was, "Well, like I wanted to be able to go to Disney World with you tomorrow." And he's like, "Mom," he was so mad that I said that. He was like,
Hmm.
"Mom, you quit to go to Disney World?" And I was like, "Okay, well let me explain. Like Thomas, I was in a really bad spot, like borderline dangerous. And I think if I would have finished that race, I would be in the hospital and I would not be okay right now." And so I had to explain that. But also, like, I think in life, there are times and places and situations and inappropriate times where quitting is the best option. And I think being brought up just we don't ever quit, I think is a really like resilient mindset. But I do think there are times in life when quitting is your best path forward. And I think sometimes that takes a lot of strength and it's a lot harder. But I think that there are times in life where it is a smarter move going forward. And for me, I think in Orlando that day, it was the smarter move going forward to not put myself into an even bigger well than I already was in.
Yeah.
Um, and I think like I learned that from round one when I had that ankle injury and I felt like I quit then. And I think that was like what I needed at the time to change direction. I needed a little bit of removal. I needed to grow. I needed to learn different things. So I think that, yeah, I mean, I sound like a broken record now, but I do think there's a time and place in life that quitting is the better option.
Do you feel like there was any effect on confidence moving forward? Like, I think of internally as a runner, like you open that door and I think at some point you're gonna, go to that demon again. Like, you know, it's like you give a little bit and then it's like, oh, it might be, I'm worried if like I'm going to keep going to that well. Or did you have any of that? Because I feel like that's where my mind would go. Like once I do it once, like, how is this going to affect me mentally the next one when things get hard? I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yes and no. I think that part of every single marathon build is practicing not quitting.
Yeah.
So I think that even though you quit or you don't start a race or you don't finish one race, I don't think that sets a pattern. I think if you're doing that 3 times in a row, then maybe that's a pattern and you should figure out, like, maybe start seeing someone that can help you process that. But I think like a one-off doesn't make you a quitter. It doesn't set a pattern. It doesn't make it easier the next time. I think quitting anything is really hard every single time. A race just about a year after that, well, 2 races. So one, the next marathon I did was in Chicago later that year. I went in again super fit. I broke my foot during the race.
Mm.
So at 15K, my foot was broken and I couldn't put any pressure on it. And I walked off the course. And that was just as hard that day than it was at the trials. And I had to take over 3 months off for that. I was in a
Hmm.
boot and crutches for a really long time. And then I built up, and my next race was a Boston Marathon in 2025. And I came in underbaked, undertrained, but I thought, let's go for it and see what happens. And I get to mile 6, I hit a wall. I'm done.
It's
At
early.
mile 6.
Yeah.
And I remember that there was a huge Nike poster that said you're halfway to
Halfway.
halfway.
Yep.
And I was done. but I didn't quit. I was done, like I was exhausted, I hit a wall, but like I wasn't having a heat stroke. I
Hmm.
didn't have a broken foot, and I know how to work through that type of terribleness.
Yeah.
And I did. I ran another 20 miles and I finished with my hands raised high. And I was so proud of that race that I was able to get to the finish line. It was probably the slowest marathon I've done in in the last 5 years, maybe not 5 years, maybe 3 years. But I was so proud that I worked through that and finished it. And just with everything that I had gone through in the last year, it felt like a really powerful moment that like I didn't quit. So I don't know. So I don't think it sets a pattern. I think there is a one-off. But I do think if you're doing it recurringly, race after race after race, then there's probably something going on that you should talk to someone with to make sure that you have the ability to try to work through those physical and emotions.
Yeah, I think for the most part, where I was going was I don't think it becomes a pattern. It's just like that mental game when things start to get tough again. If you open the door a little bit, how can you not lose a little confidence on how things are going to go?
Hmm.
And to your point on knowing when to quit and how long it took you to recover after the broken foot, my Chicago story, so that's in October, it took me 5 or 6 months to get back to running after that race because I did run the rest of the rest of the race.
Hmm.
And, in hindsight, I
Right.
lost all my consistency, had to rebuild, had to do all these things.
Yeah.
Do I regret it? No. It's like a famous last words from any runner, but it's such a tough line because you want to portray this toughness and not quit, but there are certainly times for that. And I think
Hmm.
as you're looking forward, you've had success for a long time, and I think most recently you've started transitioning. So you went to Utah, you have your coach, you had a coach change to Ed, and he has a different kind of mindset around things, right? So talk to me about the change in mindset of training on tired legs, his concept with that, how that's helping you into your 40s versus like traditional training where you're putting on 130 miles a week earlier in your career. Where's the sweet sauce in that you feel like is working for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's been so fun to learn from Ed and how he does things and how he coaches. I think that I'm doing a lot more work, about like faster than marathon pace, but then also slower than marathon pace. And I feel like learning how to run really comfortable is like a really strong point. So not everything is all out. There's an intention to every workout, and that's been really exciting. I also am on a 6 day a week schedule now. So I'm doing more mileage than I was back in Virginia, but in 6 days. So my mileage per day has gone up. But then with 1 day recovery, I love
It's on
having
Sunday,
Sundays
probably
off.
like Salt Lake shuts down on
Yes.
Sunday. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I like wake up, I have a waffle party with my kids. We like sleep in, like I get all the laundry done, do it. So I feel like I have a day to kind of catch up on life and my body can recover. But also just as I've been aging too, I have to do things a little differently. Like there's some weeks that I like we do 2 workouts a week plus a workout in the long run. So that's technically 3 workouts a week. And there's some weeks my body's like, you got two workouts in you this week, boo. Like you gotta like slow your roll. And he is very supportive and very flexible. And again, there's like no added emotion over like, yeah, just take it easy, go for a run, maybe just switch and do like tempo miles instead and just do something a little bit more in your wheelhouse today. So I really appreciate that. And it's been incredible learning from him. He's an incredible coach. His mental game is unreal. And I think that's something I see with Coach Ed Eyestone, with Clayton Young, with Connor Mance. They are the nicest, most generous, humble humans. Like you meet them and you're like, they are so sweet, but they have this like beast mode hidden like deep within them that is like incredible to see when it comes out. And I love people like that are so kind and so sweet and so supportive of others, but like know how to like go for it
Yeah.
and grind. Like, oh my God, I love seeing that. So all of them have it. And it's been really, really fun to be part of a team like that.
Do you feel like that elevates you a little bit? Because I feel like you weren't training in isolation, but you weren't training all the time with people, or if you're not around those people, I feel like when you're obviously very driven, and you're around other people that are like that or more, it kind of elevates your game a little bit. Do you feel like you're getting that kind of diffusion off of them?
Absolutely. 100%. And I think they have a type of fire that is very different from mine, and that spreads and that's contagious and that's exciting. And I think like I have a laid backness and like an attitude and it could be just my weird path. It could just be who I am. It could be that I'm 41 now, but I think that that also helps because I can show up, be telling jokes, and just like I have a really lighthearted perspective on really hard things, which I think is helpful on a team. So I hope that they can draw from that too. But yeah, it's incredible to be part of a team, and like especially on days where you're feeling blah and you see Connor Mance going after it.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, it is hard not to get all pumped up and be like, wow, like I want to go after it too. So it really is like contagious, and like, and having such an incredible team, like even like our steeplechase guys and girls, like we have Courtney Frericks on our team, like American record holder. We have Kenneth Rooks, who's a silver medalist in the Olympics. And like just seeing them too perfect their craft. Like we're all so different. And I think we all bring very different things to the table. And it's a really cool group to be a part of.
Yeah. Do you guys is everything very, very structured to the T, or do you get like, hey, go play in the mountains, for a day and go for a nice easy run through the mountains? Or do you get that freedom to do some of those things, or how does that work?
Absolutely. So we get like our structure is we know how many miles per week we're going to run. We know how many miles our long run is. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, say 8 a.m., we have workouts that will be determined that week. But besides that, so our Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, or we get to play wherever we want. Sometimes we'll meet up, sometimes we won't. And then our doubles are up to us. So we need to decide how many miles we need to do, how many runs we need to do, what type of workouts. But so we get to play around with that, but we have some structure within.
Awesome. And the tired legs piece, I think you mentioned, was kind of like a staple of his, of like doing some of your race pace and not doing the entire run at that, is kind of how I took it, as your harder efforts might come after the legs are already fatigued, instead of the entire run
Hmm.
being that, which, gets harder,
Yes.
especially as you get older. But is that
Hmm.
part of that formula of like, hey, we're going to be really tactical on how we're going to work in the harder efforts, and instead of sustaining them for a really long time, we're going to tire things out and then hit it? Is that kind of the concept?
Yes. So like for instance, on our long runs, we'll have anywhere, I mean, when we first start, maybe 16 to 18 miles, but a bulk of our long runs are anywhere from 20 to 25 miles. But pretty much every single long run in a marathon build, the last 3, 4, 5 miles of it will be at marathon pace, and then with a 2 mile cool down. So say if it's a 20-mile run, at mile 15, you start a 3 mile tempo and then you have a 2 mile cool down. So you're only doing 3 miles at marathon pace, but where you're doing it
Hmm.
makes it so much more impactful than just, a normal tempo. And you're practicing finishing hard. So you're practicing changing your tempo, picking it up when you really don't want to at that point in the run. You just want to be done. So it really is like, it's worth so much. And then we do this other workout, which I love, called fatigue miles, where you do like an 8 mile tempo, about 30 seconds slower than marathon pace. So it's not very taxing.
Hmm.
It's like, you're moving, but it's not
It's doable.
like,
Yeah,
it's
you don't
doable.
hate
It's
yourself for it.
manageable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't hate yourself. It's fine. And we do it up a hill,
Okay.
and then you come back down. So the first 4 miles
Just
are
get
hard.
up
The
there and
last
then
four
turn.
miles
Yeah.
are easy.
Yeah.
But then you get to the track and then you do 3 miles hard, like 10K pace or faster.
Well,
And those are brutal because your legs already have 8+ miles on them. And then you're trying to turn over and away. And those workouts, I feel like every time I'm like, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And you find a way and you work through and you just find something in yourself that you kind of doubt was there when you started the workout. So I love, love, love those type of
are
workouts.
those runs those are with people?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it better. Doing it by yourself would suck. Like when you have to like find
I,
that gear and you're just on a
right.
dark track by yourself.
Right. Yeah. Having people around definitely helps. Yeah.
Yeah. I use this concept at a different level, like especially with, non-elite runners coming back from injury and things where they can't tolerate the long run. So we'll do things that are taxing, do hard spin workouts, do, Stairmaster for a while, tire your legs out so that you get the fatigue. And then we'll do, instead of you can't handle the 12-mile run today, or let's say it's a 20-mile run, we're going to do a hard, hour and 10 minutes on a bike. We're going to trash your legs. Then we're going to get you to run. So it's going to simulate that longer fatigue of a run, but you're not going to get the 20 miles of pounding. So, this concept I love because it makes a total sense. And I'm actually seeing really good success with using the Stairmaster because it mimics the motion so well. And you see, like, a lot of the trail runners have been doing this for years. They just go out and they run the mountains and they're all so fast for it. But the nice thing about the Stairmaster is you don't get the downhill, which, is where a lot of the problems happen. But I love that concept of it. And we've been using it for a long time.
That's incredible. I like that a lot. And I think if there's a way to simulate that without that pressure on your legs and all the pounding and all, like, if there's a way to simulate it, I mean, that's the way to go because then you recover so much easier and it doesn't take as much out of you.
Yeah. So looking, present day, 2025 was big. Your book launched in September, right? So that's a big win. And then you also qualified for the 2028 Olympic trials in Spain. So that, I imagine, is like the focus now is what is now between now and 2028 look like? Is that kind of the mindset for you moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything that I'm going to put into my schedule now is going to put me in the best spot for 2028. I am really excited to come back, and I know, I'll be, I guess, 42 or 43 at those. So I know it's a different animal, but it's really exciting for me to like discover what I can do as I age. My workouts look different. I need a lot more recovery, like protein. I need to make sure that I'm eating a lot more and I'm just getting more in. But it's such a new challenge and it's so exciting because I feel like it's not just about me. It's like about everybody. Like we're all aging. We're all trying to find a way to keep doing it and finding our best. And I like that I don't know. It's exciting to me to keep pushing the limit in this way. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm
And
ready
you're
to go
going,
for it.
I saw you posted recently, you're going to Boston this April, right?
Yes. I'm dealing with a little injury right now. So I'm hoping that all comes together in the right way. But that's the plan. So
nice.
I love Boston. It is a special race,
yeah,
special
it's so
course,
good.
and just the environment's incredible. So, and I have some unfinished business in Boston. I've had
the
two
last
really
one.
sour races there.
Yeah, I think
so
you did
I
in
need to like set
2018,
the
right?
record straight.
You did in 2018.
Right,
Yeah, bad.
I need to set the record straight, but yeah.
I
So
have
we'll
I've done Boston a couple times, and the one I remember the most is I ran the year Meb won, and I just remember that getting announced in the crowd. And I was at like the Sitco sign or whatever, like 5K left, or maybe it had to be more than that because he ran at like a 2:04 or 5 or something. But everyone just went nuts. The runners went nuts. The aid stations went nuts. Everyone went crazy. And I just remember that vividly, the year that he ran and won.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you look back at your highlight reel, there's a lot of it. And now kids are in the mix. And I think I saw or heard when I was just kind of looking into things, you just did a 5K with your daughter for Girls on a Run recently. You look at the highlight reel of your career, like what stands out is like that thing that you go back to, or you just zoom way out and that's like the one thing that stands out.
So for running only, so not family, but running only, it's like this 90-second run. That 100% is the thing I'm most proud of. Finding the courage to start took more than anything I done before. It was scarier, it was harder, and I'm so proud that I put myself on this journey. And then I think the other things that stand out, I mean, every American record is so special. It like is like a feeling like I've never experienced before. And when I broke my first, I thought I would never experience anything like that again. And then I broke a few others and it's just like wild. So like all of those are really, really special and still like I have a hard time processing that. But then I think also the race that really sticks out is Worlds in 2022. I was the alternate to the marathon team. And 14 or 16 days before the race, one of the girls dropped out. So I was called up and asked, are you ready to do a marathon in 2 weeks for Team USA? And I was like,
This one you, Sarah Hall,
not
and Emma Bates, like took 5, 6, 8
exactly.
or whatever. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And I was not training for marathon. I was really, really fit. Like I had just tied the American record in the 10K. So I was super fit, but not marathon fit.
Yeah.
But I did it anyways. And being part of a team that kicked so much butt
Yeah, that's exciting.
was so cool. And I was like the caboose of the team. It was 5, 7, 8. I was eighth. But just having both of them wait for me at the finish line and like literally falling into the arms, to me, that was like the biggest women supporting women like thing I've ever been a part of. And that meant the world to me. So even we kicked a lot of butt, but even more than that, the way, like how powerful women supporting women can be, that is like the top of my list every single time. That's incredible.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Early Miles. This podcast is ad-free and made possible by the runners who support the RunSmart app. RunSmart is a training platform built by physical therapists who run with an injury prevention first approach. Inside the app, you get personalized running plans, strength and mobility work designed specifically for runners, and guidance that adapts to your life, training, and body change over time. RunSmart's mission is simple: to build lifelong runners. If you're looking to train smarter and support the show, you can download the RunSmart app to get started. And a quick but important note, this podcast is for general educational and informational purposes only. Nothing discussed here should be considered medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding injury, pain, or any medical condition. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time on Early Miles.